I'm Nick Anderson with Golden Horse Minerals. For those that don't know the story, this is a play in Southern Cross. About 20 small transactions were wrapped together to put an enormous package of land together for the first time, ever in Southern Cross. There's 1,800 square kilometres of tenure wrapped up and more than 100 kilometres of strike along the Greenstone Belt. We listed in December last year with a commitment to drill out a number of these targets. We started drilling our first target, Hopes Hill, in February, and we haven't left. And I'll run through why we haven't left and why we've only drilled one target to date, but you'll start to see from the numbers we put up on the screen, how exceptional and how interesting this project is and where it's going to take us. We have a great little team running this. Everyone talks about board and management. I'm sort of talking about our geos at the moment because they're the guys that are planning these drill holes and coming up with the hits and the strike and uncovering this deposit we have across this belt. We've been pretty honest in that we're going to put out our information into the market as regularly as we can, and we have been doing our best to do that. We've now got 4 rigs on site, not 3. We're running pretty hard and we're getting lots of news flow out, which we'll talk to. So what we're trying to do, we're looking to build a significant gold resource here, at Hopes Hill and at a number of our other assets on the tenure, and get them to a production-ready state. When we started drilling in February, the first drill hole we put down, we hit 61 metres at 2.5 grams, just sitting under this old pit. From there, we've continued to drill along a 1.3 kilometre strike, and we're hitting numbers up and down these old workings. There's 40 metres at 4.5, not on this page, but there's 4 at 9, there's 30 at 2.2. Big, broad intercepts of great grade, and that's what we're chasing, and that's what's going to form the basis of our resource in this project. In terms of our corporate structure, we listed in December at 25 cents. We're now trading at about 70. We raised more money in May. We raised another 15 million. We've still got about 15 in the bank to service these 4 rigs we're running. We have Emerald Resources, about a $3 billion company. They sit 20% on our register. They're heavily supportive. We use their technical team to check our work and make sure we're doing the right things, which is good. We're building out our insto base. We've got offshore support now starting to flow in, which is good. Graham Sloan's our chairman. He was the MD of Karora in a previous life, so he knows how to build these projects up and put them together and get an exit. And we have Emerald's representative Brett Donacci on the board as well, providing that technical support. Stepping back, for those that don't know, Southern Cross, it's about halfway between Perth and Cal, so a 4-hour drive from Perth. We often joke we're Taito workforce, train in, train out. They can just jump on the train from Perth and jump off at Southern Cross, and they're a 2-minute drive to our project. The guys stay in town. There's a camp in town attached to the local pub, so we have everything we need to operate in this little town of Southern Cross. Historically, it's produced more than 12 million ounces, so it's not an insubstantial gold field, and we have wrapped up, this enormous package of land, across all these old workings. So we go to Hopes Hill, our flagship project, the first of 20 we were going to drill that we haven't left. It's a 1.3 kilometre long old pit. It was mined down to about 50 or 60 metres. Why they stopped mining it, apart from in 1992, as Headley's sort of shown you, the gold price was about $400. Apart from that drill rig you can see on the screen there, that's actually sitting in the neighbouring tenure. And there's been lots of landholder disagreements, tenure arguments and so forth in Southern Cross. So this is the first time it's been wrapped up, and this project gets to be looked at as a whole, not fragmented. They produced more than 200,000 ounces here back in the 90s, which we talked about, and we are now under that pit going deeper. We've hit numbers down to 330 metres under this pit so far, and we've barely scratched the surface. So if we come and we look at the plan view from above of that 1.3 kilometres, you can see the green dots there are where we've been drilling. I've got some cross sections that we'll go through in a little bit for the geos in the room. But what I want to focus on here is we're hitting grade from the north of this pit all the way to the south. And what hasn't been done previously is looked at the extensions. How far does this pit go north and how far does it go south? Because it was tenure constrained and different parties own different pieces. So in the north, we're hitting good numbers, 30 at 2, 16 at 3, still fairly shallow. The central zone, the honey pot, are all the big numbers we've talked about, including what we put out yesterday morning, which was close to 30 metres at 3.8 grams. That was our diamond hole. That was verifying the structures we have here, and the quality of this asset. And then in the southern zone, we're missing a couple there. We did hit those couple of ounces there, 2 metres at north of 30. It's displayed as 3 at 24. But we also hit 22 metres at 2.4, and other broad intersections down there. The hole we put out yesterday is actually outside the old pit shell. It's further south, and we're still hitting grade as we go south. We have one of the RC rigs is now 500 metres south of the pit, doing a little pattern drill at surface to see what's there before we go deeper. We've got another rig going to go about 1.5 kilometres north and then work its way back down to this deposit. We believe we've barely touched the scale of this. This isn't going to be a 1.3 kilometre pit. This could be a 4 or 5 kilometre pit. Looking at the long section, the pretty picture here, that diamond hole we just talked about, 28 at 3.8, right in the centre there. That's going from 200 metres down. If you step down a bit further, you can see our deepest diamond hole from 330 metres, it hit 4.4 at 9 grams. So we've got perfect opportunity here once we've defined the size of this open pit to look at underground options. We dropped a couple of EM conductors down some of the diamond holes, and they lit up a few plates. We got the results back after the plates came through, and that 4.4 at 9 grams was within about 1 metre of what the geophysicists predicted. So we're going to, at the moment, we're drilling some pre-collars, and we're going to pin that plate number 1 in the centre of the screen there, and see how deep this potential deposit goes. So run through a couple of cross sections just quickly, so starting from the north and going south, just to show the breadth of this mineralisation and what we're working with. Up the north, there's that 30 metres at 2.2 from 170. The middle's pretty busy, but those, while it looks close together, each of those sort of holes where they're intercepting a good 40, 50 metres apart. And every time we step back and go deeper, we continue to hit this grade. The geos believe that the grade's coming sort of out of the page at us, so trending towards the south. You would have seen those shoots in the cross section on the previous page. But it is really worth focusing on a couple of these numbers. Directly under that pit in hole 1, 60 metres at 2.5. They didn't stop mining this pit because they ran out of grade. They stopped mining it because they didn't have access due to tenure constraints. As we move a bit further south, that really deep hole, which we mentioned, 330 metres, 4 at 9, we still haven't cut the rest of that diamond hole. It's on the racks as we speak now. It'll be cut and it'll be sampled and we'll get back. So hopefully there'll be even more interesting numbers, at depth down there. We've been pre-collaring a lot. You see in section 4 there, trying to get as much value as we can out of the RC rigs before we put the diamond tails on. Trying to stop just before the mineralisation. We missed that in that hole there. We actually put the RC rig through, 3 metres at 23 grams. Came back and we haven't done the tail yet. The rig's there right now as we speak, so hopefully in a week or two we'll have the rest of those couple of holes through. So that's Hope's Hill, that's that little purple circle there you can see. But we step out here to look at what 7 or 8 kilometres of this strike, this greenstone belt looks like. And we go down to the town and you can see the Fraser's pit clearly running along the same orientation as Hope's Hill. And just at the top of the page is Pilot. We've got one of those rigs I mentioned at Renegade there, 500 metres south of Hope's Hill at the moment. We drilled half a dozen holes at RM Betty earlier this year. We hit an 11 grammer and 8 grammer just on 40, 50 metre holes from the surface. So there is gold in these hills, and we're unlocking it. All that land from Hopes Hill up to Pilot, I think there's about 6 drill holes north of 50 metres deep. That's it. There's lots of shallow workings, but nothing under there. So we'll go and we'll test that, and we'll chase the continuation of this deposit. We did a couple of bottle rolls, a little bit of met testing on some of those rock chips early on, just to verify they didn't come here and rip out the oxide off the top of this pit and then walk away due to refractory or other processing issues. The initial bottle rolls we got back all came back, exceptionally high. Anything north of 90% we can run through a normal CIL plant. We hit north of 95 on every hole, every sample. We'll do some more detailed sampling on the diamond core and really continue that met test work as we look to build this asset. It's worth noting we sit on mining leases here. It did have a historical processing plant on it. It does have a tailings dam, so it is heavily disturbed. We own a large portion of land surrounding this pit, which makes us in a prime position if we want to do something towards building our own infrastructure here. We've got all the pieces in place. So we go all back, step right back out, step higher into the sky and look at the tenure package here, and we look at some of these 20 assets that I committed to drill that we haven't touched yet that we're going to. And you can see sort of as we go up north, you've got Star Avenue in there. That's an underground historical mine, never had any drill holes in it. It produced north of an ounce gram dirt. For its production, you can walk into that old workings. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can. We're going to start up there with a rig, hopefully very shortly, and we're going to pin a few holes through that deposit, and then we're going to work that rig back down towards Hopes Hill, tagging a number of these other identified targets, and really see what else has been missed in this belt. And if you look a little bit south of Southern Cross, we've got a number of interesting deposits there as well with historical data. Again, nice little intercepts, 12 at 3.5, 11 at 3.4, and almost from surface there. So there's a number of little oxide pits that haven't been followed up or developed on this tenure as well. So we're not just focused on our big Hopes Hill asset, we're also focused on finding the next Hopes Hill and the one after that, because undoubtedly we have more than one in this tenure package. As part of the wrap up of all these acquisitions to put this together, we ended up with an option into a copper project in Northern Territory. We've recently completed the acquisition of that and brought it into the stable. Why we like it, it does have an inferred resource on it already. It's got 88,000 tonnes of actual copper metal there. It's been a bit unloved. It's going to be incubated in the back of Golden Horse, where we're doing the work on it, re-establishing the relationships, and we will spin this out, at some point when we're ready. But Headley mentioned, I keep going back to it, just to make sure he knows I watched his presentation. He did mention that copper is set to go, and I find this really interesting just to have in our back pocket at this point. So why Golden Horse? Look, we have an exceptional tenure package here that has been wrapped up. It's never been done before in the Southern Cross region. We have genuine high-grade projects here. We will have a resource that will be high grade. It won't be 1 million ounces at 1 gram like half the other juniors on the ASX. We have all the infrastructure we need to build this project. We're right near that local town. We've got the rail, the road running through it. We've got a really good board, which I mentioned, and more importantly, we've got good geos running the show on the ground. And we will continue to do what we have been doing. We will get this news flow out, we'll get these announcements coming, and we'll bring our shareholders on the journey with us as we develop the assets. So thank you. It's Golden Horse.